Hello, hello, and welcome. Chris Truby here, host of the CTS, The Chris Truby Show. And what a show we have lined up for you today. We are going to be talking to The Grind, BC. That's B to the C. I'm sure that sounded totally cool and not like an old man trying to be hip. We appreciate your support, folks, so if you like what you hear, be sure to hit that subscribe button wherever you may have found us, on iTunes, Spotify, Spreaker, and now on YouTube. Just search for me, Chris Truby, or get the links in the show description below, and be sure to follow us on social media sites, our Facebook page, The Chris Truby Show, and look us up on Twitter, @Truby Show. I feel like that's a mouthful to say every time. I got to figure out a new spiel. What do you think, Fierro? Should I come up with something new, or is that working?
Yeah, make it a little shorter.
Yeah, I could always make it more brief. Anyways, as always, I'm joined by my favorite people, my co-hosts. Fierro, how's it going, pal?
Oh, it's going pretty good. I was really excited about the last show because it was someone I followed. And
Right.
I'm really excited about this show because not only am I a wrestling fan, but I'm a fan of this man, so much so that he was the best man at my wedding.
Right. That's a fact that I think I knew.
Yeah, I got denied by 8 other people, so I mean, it had to be somebody.
How far down the list was he actually?
Didn't even make the list, but beggars can't be choosers.
That's right. Also joining us today on our panel, Mike. Go for Mike. What's the word, buddy?
What's going on, man? First of all, I can't believe somebody actually married Fierro. But as far as this show, I'm super pumped. I personally want to put it in a scorpion leg lock.
That's it. Today's show is definitely going to be unique in more ways than one. Here on the CTS, we enjoy hearing people's stories, and I'd like to think that this is a platform for people to do just that. Our guest today, as you probably have guessed, is a former professional wrestler who now has his own website, thegrindcalls.com, which is a website devoted to extolling a positive outlook on pop culture. The grind may drag you down day after day, but by embracing an attitude of positivity and gratitude, you can keep your personal goals in sight. And that is taken directly from his server there. Welcome to the show, B to the C. Good to have you here, buddy.
Hey, good to be here, man. Excited. I'm not gonna lie to you. I can't believe anyone married Fierro either. That was that man had to go across the world.
Yeah, I really did. That sucked.
Took a trip across the pond.
The Americans had enough of me.
Oh.
He had to escape his reputation.
Goodness. Now, people who know me also know that I'm somewhat of a pro wrestling guy. I've been a fan as long as I can remember, going back to the late 70s, where every Sunday at noon, we would tune in, me and my grandpa would, to AWA All-Star Wrestling. And I watched guys like the Crusher and the Bruiser. Yeah, it's old school. Baron Von Raschke, who was one of my favorites growing up. That's when the AWA still had Bobby Heenan and Nick Bockwinkel, and Andre the Giant was there once in a while. Even a young Hulk Hogan started out in the WWF and then went over to AWA, and that's where Hulkamania was really born. So I could go on forever and ever and ever, but it's not about me. It's not about my fanhood. I want to hear your story. Do you remember where you were the first time you ever saw professional wrestling?
Yeah. I actually did not get into professional wrestling till around 7th or 8th grade. I remember I was at a buddy's house and we're just having, little kid play day, whatever. And he's like, hey, let's go play N64. I'm like, oh, hell yeah. Let's play some GoldenEye, some Mario Kart, whatever it is. Let's go. He's like, no, man, we're going to play WCW versus NWO World Tour. And I was like, wrestling? That's fake stuff. My buddy's like, oh, dude, it's so cool. You got to check it out. I'm like, all right, whatever. I get to be Hulk Hogan. Dude looks at me, stone cold on his face. There is no Hulk Hogan. It's Hollywood Hogan.
Right.
I'm just,
he corrected you right off the bat.
Cool, man. I get to be Hogan. That's all I care about.
Right.
30 seconds into the game, and I'm like, when does wrestling come on? Like Monday nights, TNT. Next night, I turned on Nitro. The first thing I ever saw was a recap of Super Brawl, I think 98.
Right.
Scott Steiner turning on his brother Rick, and I was like,
oh yeah,
he hit his brother? Why would he do that? And I was hooked. From then on, I was a wrestling fan.
So you started out on a steady diet of World Championship Wrestling, or WCW, correct? And was that the first one?
Yeah, that was the first thing I ever saw, was that right there. I mean, I knew who Hogan was. I knew who Undertaker was. Other than that, I didn't know anything about wrestling.
So when you're watching it, when was the moment in your head that clicked that said, you know what, I can do this?
Oh, it was pretty quick. Like immediately I was like, this is what I want to do. Because before that, I had always wanted to be an actor.
Right.
And then I realized, oh, if I'm an actor, I have to like memorize lines. That's a little much. I don't know if I could do that. So then I had the idea of having my own cartoon. Because I was a big fan of Anderson and I loved Life with Louie as a kid.
Oh wow.
And shows like yeah, so I was like, oh, I could do that. I could just read lines and have someone else draw the pictures. That'd be great. And then I found wrestling, and I was a big sports guy as a kid anyway. So I was like, oh,
sure.
That's, little of everything. I totally do this. So right off the bat, I always told people, I was like, oh, I'm going to be a wrestler. Yeah, one day, definitely.
That's really cool because, when you see something like that, and I mean, for me, it's sort of like this overload of your senses, because you're watching television and rock and roll music starts, and then there's pyrotechnics, and some guy comes out and he's dressed in leather and purple frilly things, and he's got a good looking woman next to him, or he's got something else, some gimmick or whatever that he's using, and he takes matters into his own hands. And that's what it really is all about. You have a grudge against somebody. Why do you not like this person? Okay, well, we're going to go on and we're going to fight. Yeah. Now, I remember certainly before pro wrestling was like that. I remember when it was dingy. I'm old, right? So 1970s, the old dingy halls and the stained mats, and you look at that and you'd think, how the hell does anybody match up to a guy like Jerry Blackwell or anything like that? But I was always fascinated by it. Like I said, the first live card I ever went to is when I was 5, that was an AWA card in the, we'll say, late 70s. I don't want to date myself too hard, but yeah. And it was always something that interested me as well.
My great uncle was a professional wrestler back in the old days. Dirty Dick Reigns.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, he used to work out here. Yeah, he used to run around down here at the Sportatorium and different places like that. So
okay. Did he work for the Von Erichs then?
Yeah. He worked with them a lot.
Okay. I'll have to go back and look at that. I mean, I like to consider myself somewhat of a knowledgeable guy when it comes to this, but hey, I'll be the first one to admit there are gaps in my knowledge.
Oh yeah, I don't think he traveled much. I think he pretty much stayed pretty local around here. Right. But my mom used to just, like, once I started getting into wrestling, my mom used to tell me all about her uncle who was, Dirty Dick Reigns. And one of my original names I was going to use was Dirty Dick Reigns Jr.
Oh, cool.
I ended up not using it, but.
Oh, why didn't you wind up using it? What happened to that?
Just gimmick wise, we went with a different angle. We just, the way I came out, we used a lot more of me in the gimmick. So
right,
that's just how it kind of worked out.
And that's always
a lot more
way.
Of your personality is what you ended up doing. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. Because Dirty Dick Reigns sounds very, very country-ish, and I am in no way, shape, or form country. So,
all right,
you come from Texas. I've been to your family's farm. They have cows.
They do. That's true.
Oh, so who was it that trained you? All right. So I want to skip ahead because you got a plan in your mind that
Yeah.
you want to be a pro wrestler, and it's not the easiest thing in the world to get into.
No.
So who was it that trained you, and how did you like your first day?
Oh, okay. So I was trained by Metroplex Wrestling here in Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
And it was very interesting because I remember I had gone to WrestleMania 25 in Houston.
Okay.
And I had been on Facebook talking about how much I enjoyed it, how fun it was. It was the first time I ever went to WrestleMania. And a buddy of mine in high school, who I hadn't spoken to since high school, was like, hey, we started our own wrestling company. You should come check it out. And at the time, I knew nothing about indie wrestling. I was like, there's independent wrestling. What the hell?
Right.
And so I went to check out this company. There was maybe 10 people in the audience. Me and my brother were there, and we're sitting in the front row watching. And we were high school football players. We were athletes. My brother would have been in the NFL if he hadn't had 5 ACL tears.
Right.
But yeah, so we're sitting there like, we could do this. This isn't hard at all. Look at this. And so we went up to the guys who ran it, Stephen Kirby there. And I was like, hey, yeah, I would like to come check out training. He's like, all right, well, we do training on Sundays. Well, and come on up here and, and all that. Like, all right, cool. So the night before the first day we went to training, we stayed up until 4 a.m. drinking and partying, and then showed up at noon in the middle of July here in Texas to a gym with no air conditioning.
Oh yeah.
To start training to be professional wrestlers. And we're like, whatever. We're more athletic than any of these guys. We puked all over the place. Day one.
Yeah.
They had us running through the ringer. And like, oh, these guys aren't coming back. Next week we were back again and did the same thing, still drinking, partying the night before, showing up. And
no lessons
that
learned.
Went on for a good 3-4 months until we realized maybe we should not drink the night before training.
Yeah, things that sound like a good idea, right?
Yeah.
Wow. So,
but yeah,
at the end of that 4 months, then, were you ready to have your first match?
Technically, no, we were not.
Right.
But due to the storylines they were running and the people they had, they're like, hey, I think it was 5 months in, 6 months in. Normally people don't have a match for at the time it was, you'd probably train for 8 months to a year before you'd have an actual match.
Right.
Wow.
Now now people put them in there a little quicker, but so they're like, hey, we need to put y'all out there. So y'all are going to make your debut. We're like, all right, cool. Let's go. And we debuted as Cash and Carey, the Money Man BC, and the Muscle Zach T. I was a Jersey Shylock. So it was a very interesting and fun gimmick, but we were the first actual tag team that Metroplex Wrestling had put together. Everyone else, they either brought in a team that was already established or they just kind of had people working together. But we were the first homegrown MPX tag team.
Right. That's cool. And who did you wrestle that night?
Yeah. So our actual debut, we didn't have a match. We were starting a feud with a guy named Lucha, and he had just had a match. And the story was he owed us money. And so we come in from the audience and, we beat the crap out of him. We beat him 6 ways from Sunday on that opening of ours. And it was a lot of fun, but, and then we went on to do a pretty long feud with him and another of our buddies, Seth Anunnaki, who's, still working in the Texas scene here now. So yeah,
right.
It was a great entrance to getting into professional wrestling, man. It was a lot of fun.
Now, did they go through anything with you as far as how to cut a promo?
It was funny because later on I had another tag team that, my partner was more of the wrestler and I was the personality. And
right.
That's always what I have been is I have always been my entire life a personality. Right. So they tried to talk to me about this is, how you cut a promo. give it a shot. You're not going to do any good this first time, but give it a shot. And then I just start talking, and they're like, "Oh, all right, cool. So you know how to talk. Don't worry about it then." they were originally planning on trying to put a manager with our tag team.
Right.
And then like me and my brother were going to be the goons, and the manager was going to be like the money man. And we were just going to be the Goombas behind him. And then they go, "Oh, he doesn't need a mouthpiece. He needs to be the one that's talking." So immediately they just kind of let me start going.
Well, that's cool. It's nice because I think that's the preference, right? To kind of make it so that you can speak for yourself, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that was always where my money was just me talking. Even throughout the match, the moves and stuff were always centered around whatever I was going to say to the people, and the crowd would hear it. And it was always a crazy time.
Now, I've got a question along those same lines, and this is something that's always kind of fascinated me. When I listen to a professional wrestler cut a promo on another guy, there's a couple of different schools of thought on it. One, never tell a lie. In other words, don't tell the people something that isn't going to happen, right? So if you're going to be in a world championship match, for example, and you're not going to win the title, don't tell the people you're going to win it. Does that make sense? Is that about the right speed, or is that changed?
To a point, yes. You want to make sure people know that you are confident and that you might be the one that's going to win it.
Right. Okay.
So telling someone that you're going to win is not so bad. But putting down your opponent to a point that it's pointless that you're facing them, that's where you want to draw line. You wanted to make it because if you beat someone who is worthless, then you didn't really win anything. And if you lose to someone who you said was worthless, that makes you look even worse. So while you want to, convey that you are on top and that you think you're going to win, you also don't want to put your opponent down too low. You want to make sure when you win, it was something big that you did. And that's whether you're heel or face. You just have to kind of figure out the way to do it that's either building them up positively or putting them on a level that you are going to knock them off of.
Right. And that, what I'm really trying to do here is establish that there's a psychology behind what you do in the ring. Absolutely, there is, and that spills over into your promo work as well.
Psychology was a big thing that we learned about, and the psychology of wrestling is so intense and intertwined with everything you do, from whether it's the promos to your gear to your entrance to the moves in the match, when you do the moves, how you do everything, whether you're missing something or making something, how you sell. I learned a lot of psychology from Ember Moon, who's in the WWE now. At the time, she was known as Athena. She's a good friend of mine. And I remember conversations with her. We would just sit up after training talking and listening to her explain psychology and how to format matches and promos and stories was always like one of my favorite things to do, is just listen to her talk, because her mind was so in tune with the professional wrestling world.
So to me, it sounds like the way you present yourself, the promos and all that, is you basically are building the narrative constantly.
It is a constant show. Yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Like and people always equate it to a male soap opera, and that's what it is. Cause it is an ever going storyline that just ebbs and flows and changes, and you with it. You ride the waves, you adapt to the crowd, and you're constantly just building on everything you've done before.
Yeah. And I would be remiss too if I didn't mention that there's also a certain level of physicality, because it's not ballet. I've heard that 100 times, and I can attest it's not ballet. Getting slammed on the mat hurts. The first time it happens to you, it's pretty jarring.
That's something I wanted. I'm glad you brought that up. I wanted to touch on that, because you mentioned the training, and BC mentioned throwing up the first time, which there's other things that contributed to that.
Oh,
But
sure.
That's one thing I was curious about, the physical taxing nature of being a professional wrestler. I mean, you got to be piling on injuries. I mean, there's a lot more to it than people really realize.
Yeah, it was insane, bro. Like hitting the mat for the first time, I'm thinking, I'd been in a WWE ring, which is kind of like being on a pillow. And then I got into an independent wrestling ring, which is kind of like being on a wooden surface. It was quite painful to hit that thing. But what actually hurt the most was learning to run the ropes. You hit those ropes that are pretty much just elevator cable. And I had marks like on the upper part of my back for months after my first couple days of training, because you're just hitting them and hitting and hitting.
Yeah.
And it's just more and more pain right there. That was the hardest part of it. The Ric Flair chops are the next most painful thing. When you start out, they don't do it anymore, which really pisses me off, but you had this thing called a chop line. And when you're a rookie, when you're about to kind of like, when you're really getting initiated, when they're like, okay, this guy's going to make it, he can stick around, you have to go through the chop line, in which case you get chopped. Me, I think I took, I think it was around 47 chops in a row. My chest was multiple handprints, blood. It was really painful. But after that, you're part of the crew. So
yeah. It's the first step of paying your dues,
I mean, you did all that, but I mean, it was worth it because they had excellent medical coverage and great pay, right?
No, I had no medical coverage. And so MPX was a brand new company that just kind of started up in Dallas. And when we first showed up to talk about it, they're like, hey, we'll train you. And when you get on shows, and we won't charge you to train, you'll be able to train for free. But when you get on show, we won't be able to pay you. To which I was like, you're going to train me for free? All right, cool, whatever. I don't care. It's fine. And so I worked for free for the first probably 3 years of my career for MPX. But training back in the day cost anywhere from $1,200 a month to $2,500 a month. So the fact that I got completely free training was pretty interesting. And these guys actually train themselves. Like they learned to wrestle from watching the creative move on like WWE WrestleMania 2000.
Interesting.
Those kind of, or SmackDown versus Raw, all those things. That's how they train themselves.
So they
just
train
started
themselves,
their own company.
They train themselves watching video games. That's insane.
Yes. That's interesting.
When MPX first started, the independent wrestling world hated us. They hated us. They would blackball anyone that came to work with us. They would not allow any of our wrestlers they were in because we didn't come in the old school way. We didn't come in. The guys who started it didn't come in the old school way. And so we ended up getting some Texas like legends, not legends, but some of the upper guys that were in Texas wrestling at the time. They were known as Genesis, Karrion Arcane, Christopher Hayden, my eventual tag team partner, Frankie Fisher. They came in and kind of taught us the things that we didn't know and helped us out there a lot. So it was really cool to see that.
Yeah. Did they consider you guys to be an outlaw promotion then?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, they hated us. And then, and again, when I first showed up there was 10 people in the audience.
Right.
Right now, MPX still runs. They now run weekly. They're no longer in a rundown gym. They have their own building. They have their own network that you can watch the shows online. You can watch a backlog of shows, everything, and they consistently get ex-WWE stars, Ring of Honor stars, TNA stars coming through. They've sent people to the WWE, and they consistently have, well, not so much now because of COVID, but before COVID, we had consistently 200, 250 people a night at the shows, which is the capacity for the building we were in.
That's really good. That's
really good. pretty dang successful for two guys who learned how to wrestle from video games.
Yeah, they did. They did
That's
pretty
impressive.
good.
So, who were some of the names that went to, I guess, what you would call the big leagues, WWE or AEW, from your neck of the woods?
Let's see here. Well, we had Athena, who was already a wrestler before
Right.
NPX, but she came in and helped train us. Keith Lee, who is there now, part of NXT.
Yep.
Come through NPX again. He didn't start at NPX either. We've sent people like Barrett Brown and Gregory James have been featured on Monday Night Raw. A couple other, oh God, I can't think of other names right now, but we've had, some of them come through, and a lot of people who have been on Raw, but they're not, hired by WWE.
Sure.
Right now, we've had a lot of people go through and been through there. And again, Christopher Hayden, who I spoke of earlier, was on Raw a couple years ago. The year that WrestleMania was in New Orleans, like right before he was on Raw, and they used him as a state trooper arresting Roman Reigns.
Right.
And Roman gives him a Superman punch right in the face. And it was reported all over the dirt sheets that Roman Reigns accidentally broke this guy's jaw. And so I was going through New Orleans with him. WrestleMania, I was hammered. I'm just screaming out, "This is the state trooper. Roman Reigns broke his jaw." He was getting really mad at me.
Oh, that's great. So who were some of the bigger names that we might know that you were in the ring with, that you shared the ring with?
Okay, my favorite, and this is probably not one of the bigger names, but he's one of my favorite guys that I worked with, was Rob E. He was a part of TNA, and now he is Strauss, I believe, on NXT. He's more of a manager now than anything else, but he came through and I got to work with him. We had Jerry Lynn come in from ECW back in the day. That was a lot of fun. We went out with him afterwards, and he really loves Pink, like the musician Pink. Like he was playing that. He kept going to the jukebox playing the damn song. Fun guy. I know it was crazy. But now every time I hear that song, I think of Jerry Lynn. We had X-Pac come through.
Oh, cool.
A couple of times. Yeah. X-Pac was a lot of fun. Like it was weird because at first he was kind of a dick. Like for the majority of the show, like he didn't talk to anybody. He just sat there. He wouldn't go over things with the guy he was going to work with. And then like 3 minutes before he was supposed to go through the curtain, he gets up. He's like, "What are we doing? All right, well, let's do this. All right, let's go." And then he just like flipped a switch and he was X-Pac. And I was like, "Oh, wow, that was crazy." We had the Spirit Squad come through. They were fun. We had Tommy Dreamer, Just Incredible, a couple other guys too. So it was pretty cool to see.
Sounds like a ton of fun.
Yeah,
it really does.
It was a lot of fun.
Quite the cast of characters.
Oh yeah.
See, that's why I'm telling Mike he should go see the show, because I know Chris has seen all the shows. BC's been part of it. And I remember the first time BC ever took me to see one of his shows, we pulled up to this building that I thought was like a foreclosed on Barnes and Nobles or something. I'm like, dude, someone's doing meth or someone's getting murdered in the back. I'm like, nobody's here. All these buildings look closed down. Then we go around the back, meet all the dudes. He shows me everything. And dude and I had a great time. I mean, it's totally different than the you watch on like WWE, because I don't know, you're there and it's like right in front of you. And I would tell anyone, if they're on the fence about going to go see a show, an independent show, you have to go do it at least once.
I'd agree.
And don't forget to buy those $5 hot dogs and $10 bag of chips, because these independent people need money.
So I'd like to, I guess, move forward a couple years into your career here. We went through the training, how you got in, some people you've wrestled with. So let's circle back around to MPX. I was Googling you a little bit there and looked at some of your stats, and you mentioned Frankie Fisher. I read that you two were the 4-time MPX tag team champion.
Yes, we were. I believe, I don't know, that record may have been broken down, but I believe I have held the title more than anybody at MPX because I'm a 5-time tag team champion. I won it with my brother before he retired, and then me and Frankie won it 4 times. And Frankie is one of my best friends, and we became a tag team because we literally just kept bothering the booker to put us together. We annoyed him so much. He was just like, you know what? Whatever. Y'all can be a team. Go play, have fun. Not thinking that it was going to be anything. And then the audience reacted to us so quickly and so viral that it just took off. And we became I still say one of the premier tag teams in the state of Texas.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Now, do you prefer being on a tag team, or do you prefer wrestling as a solo act?
I always loved tag team wrestling more than anything else. I grew up, me watching wrestling. I loved the Steiner Brothers, the Outsider, Harlem Heat, Public Enemy, tag teams, Crime Time. Tag teams were like what I loved more than anything. So when I got into wrestling, I was like, I want to be a tag team wrestler. I did go on to have a pretty good solo career. I went to a company called East Texas Championship Wrestling, where I was their first world heavyweight champion. I took that belt to Fierro's wedding and gave my best man speech holding it. I took it everywhere I went. I took that belt. I held it for over 1,000 days, basically until I retired.
Wow.
I do have a question about the belt.
Yeah.
I've always been curious as a professional wrestler. Is there one belt, and say you win it and then somebody else wins it later, do you give them that belt, or do you have one that they give you that you can like put in a trophy room?
So WWE has a traveling belt and a show belt. So if you're the champion, you are in charge of carrying the traveling belt everywhere you go. If you're on the show, they have a belt that is there in case something happens to the belt while you are traveling. But yeah, your name is imprinted on that belt. And unless you are Stone Cold Steve Austin or The Rock or John Cena, when you lose that belt, they take that belt back. But I'm pretty sure like Rock has bunch of his belts that he won. He got to keep some of them, and because he shows them off in a trophy case, but not everyone gets to do that. With independent wrestling, there is one belt for the show. You don't get to keep it. You have to leave it. We let most people leave it at the building. And I say most people because along with wrestling, I had a bunch of podcasts, a bunch of YouTube shows, a bunch of appearances. So whenever I was champion, the company I was with would always let me take the belt with me because it was good publicity for the company. I could take it on. I took it everywhere I went. Like it became a gimmick to me that I had a belt at all times. Yeah. It was either the MPX tag belt or the ETCW World Heavyweight Championship, or I had the GWF tag team title at one point. There's one point I had all 3 belts. And so I would take them everywhere I went. And if there was ever time that I wasn't a champion, I had like a toy belt that I carried around to all my appearances and shows. I'm like, no, I'm still a champion. See, I got a smoking skull title. So
they gave you extra luggage to carry through.
Yeah, I actually think ETCW like wanted me to be champion and kept me champion so long just because I took the belt everywhere I went. Once they saw pictures of me with taking the belt to the Buckingham Palace in London, trying to challenge the Queen for the country, they were like, "Oh, we need to just keep this belt on him because it's traveling the world."
Oh my Lord,
that's hilarious.
Dude, he was taking pictures with everyone like he was Mike Tyson or something. We had like the chef come out who was catering the wedding, taking pictures with him, all the staff. Like they don't know, what to them he was the Rock.
500 followers on Twitter. They just he has a belt. He must be important.
To them, he was the Rock. He was Stone Cold. He was like big time. And don't get me, this dude was eating it up. Oh my God, he loved it.
To me, I was Stone Cold in the Rock.
Yeah.
Fake it till you make it, bro.
You were the Rock. You were the Pebble.
Come on, give the guy credit. He earned that belt. I don't blame him for being proud.
Stone Cold, you were room temperature.
That's good.
Lukewarm,
That's
BC.
good. Okay, that's good.
it.
Now, so you've been the world champion at ETCW. You've been the tag team champion at, I believe, 2 different promotions. Is there a specific title that means the most to you out of all these? Is there one that was harder to achieve than another, or?
The MPX tag team title will always hold a special place in my heart because it was the first belt I had. I won it very early in my career, way earlier than I should have won it, but we needed a tag team champion, and they're like, well, y'all are our only real tag team, so we're going to put it on you guys. So that belt and I won it with Frankie, who was one of my trainers and one of my best friends. So that will always mean the world to me. Winning the ETCW title, at first I was just like, all right, it was really cool because I was in a fatal 4-way. 2 of the other people in the match were my other trainers, the guys I mentioned earlier, Karrion Arcane and Christopher Hayden. So being able to win that title in a match with 2 other of my trainers meant a lot to me. But being the champion at first did not mean, I was like, all right, cool, I'm singles champion. I would prefer to be tag team, but it is what it is. But as time went on, that belt became so important to me because the company continued to put so much faith in me. And would use me as the face of their company. And I was really honored to be in that position. And the further along I got in my career, the more I noticed the toxic world of professional wrestling and the boys club and the politics that went on. And something that I really enjoyed was the fact that there weren't any politics at ETCW at all. It was really just the guy who ran it was one of the nicest people in the world. Bobby Midnight was one of the most genuine, real people I have ever met in my life. And he didn't care what you did in your career. As long as you were a good person, he brought you in. And so I really enjoyed being in that locker room a lot more than almost anywhere else, just because everyone there was just a fun person to be around.
I'll tell you what, I want to ask you a little bit more about that, and I want to ask you a little bit more about the, without catching a phrase or without getting sued by Vice, the dark side of the ring. But we need, but we desperately need to take a break and satisfy our sponsors. So please don't go anywhere. CTS will be right back. Hey everybody, thanks for stopping by. This is CTS. I'm Chris Ruby, here along with Mike and Fierro, and we're being joined by BC, and we're talking all things pro wrestling. We touched on it a little bit before the break, but I want to get back into this because I think this is an important piece to the puzzle. You mentioned before that there are, let's say, unsavory elements to the professional wrestling industry. I wouldn't go as far as to describe it like a dark underbelly, but there are definitely things like politicking and shenanigans and all kinds of things that just like any other walk of life could happen to go awry. What are some of your experiences with that?
There's a lot of politicking. There's a company that I worked with early on in my career, really because my tag team, me and Frankie, the Flying Jackasses, we were so wanted by all over in Texas that this company just was forced to bring us in, and they used us for a good amount of time, but they didn't like before the matches and stuff. Sometimes I put on my headphones and I get in the zone and whatnot. But they didn't like that people listen to headphones in the back, or someone didn't say hello to the right person at the right time. And that always became, some kind of issue. And that was something about professional wrestling I never understood. I'm like, people would get so butthurt because you didn't show them, the proper respect, like it was the mafia or something. And it always came from people normally that could not wrestle. Like a lot of bookers are people that could not wrestle. And, they always wanted you to kind of kiss their ass to get on their show. And that was something that me and Frankie never did. We were not gonna come and just, be yes men to you just because you wanted to feel important. We'd be nice. We'd be proper. We'd be, but we weren't going to come kiss someone's ass just because. And I know, I'm sorry, we're not supposed to be cussing on the show, but it's just something that we weren't going to do. And people would get really angry about that.
Now, would they get angry enough to take liberties with you guys in the ring?
That would happen with some people. There were a lot of people that I've heard stories about.
Right.
It never happened with us because pretty big dude.
Yeah, I mean, look at you, right?
Frank, yeah. And Frankie is a pretty intense individual when he is angry. But other than that, people wouldn't really try much with us because of that reasoning. But I have heard stories of other people getting taken advantage of in the ring and things like that. The worst we ever had was we would have people kind of just not want to book us just because they knew we were getting kind of big and they didn't want to, be overshadowed. They wouldn't want to bring on someone to be overshadowed.
Right. Now, as you got more popular, did the cost of hiring you go up as well?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Toward the end of my career, I was actually, it'd be kind of expensive to bring, especially us as a tag team, because it was toward the end of Frankie's career. Definitely. Like he had been going, 5-6 years longer than me. And he was like, yeah, I'm not going anywhere unless they're really paying us. So to bring us in as a team got very expensive. And to bring me, I would do it for a little bit less, but I got to a point that I started taking the Joker's advice. And if you're good at something, never do it for free.
Duly noted. Yeah, there's no better way to put it.
Yeah.
How much are we getting paid for this?
We got Mike. He's going to look his notes up.
That's what I'm doing. I mean, looking through some of your stats, it looked like probably your most prominent year in wrestling was 2015. It looked like you had your most matches that year. Would you consider that the high point of your career, or is that just like kind of when you guys really started taking off? Or
that was probably around when when the FJA started taking off and started getting more recognizable, and that's also around when I started doing like a lot of my other stuff, when I started doing podcasting, when I started doing working with the Movie Trivia Schmodown, when I started branching out and doing a lot of stuff in the entertainment industry. And so we started getting noticed a lot more because of that. So along with Frankie's in-ring talent, because Frankie was one of the most talented professional wrestlers in Texas, we really started to get noticed on more of a stage. But so we would go around more, we would do a lot more different things. And I was starting that uphill climb to getting to where I was about a year ago, where I was just like on top of the world. So
yeah, so that's really when the brand started going, if that's the best way of describing it.
I believe my brother retired in like 2013, maybe 2012, something like that, because his knee just couldn't take it anymore. We moved to Nashville. I tried to get recognized by TNA, but I was still only like a year and a half or 2 years into my career. And so I wasn't anywhere where I needed to be, where I thought I was, but I wasn't. And then when I came back to Dallas and worked singles for a little while, I had a couple different tag teams that I kind of worked with before Frankie. Around when me and Frankie really started teaming is when everything started to click for me. And it was no longer like, okay, I got to figure out how to do this. And I was asking other people, how do we do this? How do we do that? It became a thing. I'm like, all right, we can just go do this. We can add this in here. We can do this. And everything's moved quicker. So right around there. And that's when we kind of got off to the races with the FJA.
Right. I mean, experience counts for a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. and despite the fact that we weren't really good at the politicking and begging to be on those, we had so many fans that kind of did that for us. So they would go to other companies and ask them to bring us in, which is what really kind of got us going around. So we were always so thankful to the to our fans that kind of supported us and always held us up. If it weren't for them, we never would have got anywhere.
Right. And you did mention that you went to Nashville to try and get TNA to take a look at you. Did you ever go anywhere else, or did any other major promotion, take a look at you as a talent?
Not any like real major ones. I've worked outside of Texas a couple times. I went to, I did get a chance to be on Championship Wrestling from Arizona, which was a pretty big, they're a sister company to Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, which is a sister company to the NWA. Yep. So it was really cool to get out there and work with Championship Wrestling. They were a lot of fun. Me and my friend Kenny Steele, we became the tag team out there for just one show. We had a lot of fun though. We flew out there the day of the show, worked the show. It was taping in the middle of the day. So we went, worked the show. After that, went and saw Bohemian Rhapsody at a theater, and then went straight to the airport, slept there until our flight the next morning back to Dallas.
Oh, the good times.
And so that's kind of how wrestling outside of Texas was for me. I would fly somewhere, wrestle the show, and then sleep on the ground at the airport and come back home the next day.
Wow. Anything to save a buck, because like I said, pay is minimal until you can get to a better spot. But yes.
Is this out of pocket cost when you're flying around doing this? Like if you go out there and fly out to LA to be on that show?
A lot of the time, yes. We're our own contractors, so I would negotiate the price and stuff to be able to make sure it was financially, acceptable for me to go do this. But other than that, that's really what it was. Luckily, I have an in at an airport. I have some friends that work for an airline, and I could, fly on standby buddy passes and stuff like that. So
nice.
Oh, that's cool. Nice. That's cool.
So like when I was in the entertainment industry, I would negotiate for people to kind of, hey, I'll cover my hotel. And they're like, oh, you don't need a flight? I'm like, no, cover the hotel, throw the rest into my fee. They're like, oh, okay, cool. Cause I could just hop on a plane from a friend of mine. And that would always help out a lot too.
Yeah, that's nice. Not everybody has that luxury. So
no, not at all. It is one that I was very thankful for. I would not have gotten to where I was without, my friends that, helped me fly around.
Do you still have that today? Do you have the ability today to hop on oh, cool.
Yes, I do. And it is still like, it's a little more difficult now because of the vid, but yeah.
All right, BC, thinking about how you started your career and how everything went so far, is there anything you would approach differently about starting your career? Because I know you told me you trained for free. Would you think about, like another promotion or anything like that? I guess what I mean is, would you change anything about how your career started?
I would not have wanted to train anywhere else but MPX. I have nothing but love for Metroplex Wrestling, and I am so glad that I trained there and I was a part of the company before they were accepted by the wrestling world. I'm still to this day honored to be a part of that, founding family there. The only thing I wish I could have done differently is I wish I could have started earlier. I didn't start until I was 23, 24 years old. I wish I would have gone straight to this, been able to do it right out of high school. That would have been so much better. Instead of going and spending, 3 semesters at college, drinking myself stupid, and then years just, being in depression until I found wrestling. I wish I would have gone straight to it right out of the bat.
Well, I will say, if you would have done that, we never would have met. Because I met this dude in college, freshman year. He lived right below me, and he would always use a goddamn broomstick Gosh, I'll edit that out. He would always use a broomstick, and he would bang it on his roof, which is my floor, to get my attention, so he could come up to my room and eat all my food.
That's facts, man. That's how it was. Look, I was busy working in the cafeteria, saving all my money so I didn't have to buy my own food, so I could eat your food, bro.
I walked out of my room sometimes to find him digging through our fridge.
Wow.
We didn't live in the same place.
Also facts.
He just picked you out of a lineup? Is that how it worked?
Pretty much. He's like, I need a friend. I mean, he lived with this one guy, super nerdy, kept to himself. These other two dudes, I don't even remember their name. Was one Anthony?
God, I can't. Anthony was the one I actually.
Yeah, I don't really like him. The dude that what's his name? Little Pookie.
Yeah, I don't remember his name, but he hated me because I controlled the AC on our side of the building, our side of the apartment, and I kept that thing down at like 50 because we didn't have to pay for electricity.
Little Pookie got all the money, but all he did was smoke weed. Like his apartment filled with 4 dudes was like one dude graduated. I'm pretty sure the other 3 flunked out. But hey, if we didn't meet there, he wouldn't be on the show today. So, good things happen for a reason.
Exactly.
Bad things.
That's it. I want to kind of switch gears a little bit and talk about something that happened to you towards the end of your career now. I understand that there was a huge effort in 2020, I think it was last year, where there were some allegations that were made against a professional wrestler that started a snowball effect, and that was called #SpeakingOut, I believe.
Yes.
And I understand that you were one of the individuals who were caught up in that.
Yes, I did. I did get caught up in that, and it was. This is the first time I've spoken about this publicly, which is a lot more difficult than I thought it was going to be.
Sure. Well, take your time, man.
So wrestling had its the Me Too movement was really big and incredible for Hollywood to kind of start cleaning things up and making things better.
Sure.
And then wrestling kind of had its own mini movement, speaking out, and which was great. And I think certain things in it were handled trial by Facebook, but it is what it is, and things happened. And so me, at this point, it was June of 2020. I was pretty much on top of my world. I was moments away from really getting everything worked for my almost entire adult life. And I felt very untouchable. I had just debuted on the CW network for wrestling. I was about to film a pilot for a YouTube show that was going to have a guaranteed probably 10,000 views a week. I was working for the movie Trivia Schmodown, which is something I had always wanted to do. I was a known person. I was getting everything I had ever wanted, and I felt completely untouchable. And I had a show to do on a Friday night. It was going to be live on Zoom. And at this moment, I had broken my nose, and I had broken a tooth. So I'm on painkillers at the time. And I'm going on this show, which is a very, they drink a lot on the show. So I had throughout the course of the show, I had 16 shots of Terramana tequila.
Holy mackerel.
Yeah. And 2 glasses of Terramana Reposado tequila, 3 hydrocodines. Because my anxiety and depression, I was like, this is a big moment. This show is for the audience that I'm about to launch a show for. And this is kind of their solidifying me as a character on this channel. So my anxiety is kind of through the roof. So I had 3 bars of Xanax, like full bars.
Wow.
Now the hydrocodone was obviously prescribed to me because of my broken nose and my tooth. The Xanax was illegally obtained through Mexico. So, and then tequila was just, tequila. Now, I say all that not to make excuses for my actions, because there are no excuses for what I did. But it's just to paint a of where my mindset was at the time. The show I was on was a late night show. I think we came on at 10 o'clock on the West Coast, which was midnight here in Texas. And then we went for 2-3 hours and then did an after show. So, it's 3:34 in the morning when I'm getting off ready to go to bed. And I'm scrolling through Instagram, and there had been this fan, a 17-year-old girl who I liked something on her Instagram page. We'd had a conversation before. We had a relationship because, as in like, she was a friend. I talked to her. I tried to be a role model because she had a broken home life, and I just wanted to be, help to her if I could. And I liked something on Instagram because she was an artist and I was always supportive of her art. And she messaged me and I responded, and she could tell that I was way out of my mind, and she could not understand anything I was saying because I couldn't text. And so she called me, and I wish I had not answered that phone. I had not put her in this position, and I wish I had not put myself in this position. But the facts are I did, and I said a lot of very inappropriate to her. And then things that I look back up, and I didn't know I said them till they were recounted to me through the speaking out movement, and I was completely ashamed of myself. I cannot believe that I put her through this. I can't believe I put my fans through this. I can't believe I put my friends through this. And right then and there, everything just kind of ended.
Wow.
And it
like,
makes
just
sense.
like that.
It just like that, everything was gone. And I get it. It makes sense because I was completely wrong. And I thought, at the time I was in my mind, I'm untouchable. But in reality, that's never a case. It's never okay to say the type of things that I said to her. And, in the conversation, she recounts that she was participating in the conversation. But at the same time, she looked back and she's like, this probably shouldn't have happened, and it should not have. I should not have said anything. Now, granted, I never broke, any laws. I never did anything like that, but that doesn't make what I did okay. It was still completely wrong. And I lost everything for it, and rightfully so, because not only is this something that I screwed up, she now has to live with the fact that this was part of her life too.
Right. So there was no physical interaction.
No.
Right.
No. I had, we knew each other. I'd seen her a few times. And things that were said, that went on were taken out of context. Some of them were complete lies, but of it was true. And so that, therefore, it was wrong, regardless of, things that were not true. Some of it was true.
Sure.
And that immediately makes what I did wrong.
Now, is she the one that came forward?
She did anonymously, which is why, I haven't said a name or anything like that. She came forward anonymously through some other wrestlers who, put her story out there and led the charge and whatnot. So, yeah.
What was it like to find out, that you had lost as much as you had? What I mean by that is, you were getting ready to do a show. You were getting ready to be part of the CW. You were getting ready to, or you not were getting ready to, you were on a pop culture channel doing podcasts. What was it like? I mean, take us through that moment where after this hit, was it just like a domino effect? Did everything just kind of drop at once?
Everything at once was just gone, just like that. I had found out early in the day that it was going to come out. And at first I had idea what was happening. I was trying to figure out what I had said. I had gone back through the messages that I saw, and some of them were I was like, okay, that's I shouldn't have said that, but that's not damning. Like, I think I told, like, drunkenly messaged that I needed someone to cuddle with or something like that. And I was like, well, that's bad because she's 17, but that's not, horrible. What, and then when it all came out, I was like, oh, that's what I said. Okay. Cause she recapped the phone call. But watching it all, like the day it was going through, I made calls to MPX. I made calls to ETCW. I made calls to the Schmodown. I called the people that I was in contact with that were important and that I respected. And I was like, hey, this is about to happen. This is coming out later today. And I apologized right off the bat. I was like, I screwed up. I still don't know exactly what I said, but I know I had messed up. And so leading up to when it finally dropped, I had seen, other people go through this and the trial by Facebook. And and one of the things I noticed is people always were like, oh, they got off of social media, what cowards, stuff like that. So I was like, okay, well, look, I'm just going to stay here, and it's my fault. I messed up. I'm going to own it. And I immediately did that. I said, I have no excuse for my actions. I am sorry. I'm going to take myself away from everything, and not leave social media, but away from, the spotlight. And the amount of hate I immediately got and threats and things, I was like, oh, this is why people leave social media. Got it. Which is why I got off social media. And I don't know if I'll ever go back to Facebook. I am back on Twitter and Instagram now. But I'll never go back to Facebook just because of the toxicness of that world. And again, I'm not trying to be a victim of anything. And I am not. I'm the one that screwed up. I'm the one that put her in a position she should not have been in. And I was completely wrong for that. But I think we as a society, the trial by Facebook, the cancel culture is not the way to go, because we immediately turn to hatred rather than turning to help people. Mm-hmm. And one of the issues that I had with this was there were other people in the industry, someone that I knew, and I still kind of, I talk to now to kind of help him, because I know he still struggles a lot with it too. He was doing a lot worse. He was doing horrible things to girls, physically. And a lot of people knew about it in the wrestling industry. And all of us just said, well, that's just how he acts. And we just let it go. That makes us just as guilty. And then when he got called out by the girls, those same people who knew about it and just say, well, that's just how he is, got on a platform and damned him. And that's where my issue is. Not that he was called out, not that he, or myself, but the fact that we are all just as guilty for knowing about this and letting it go on, and then trying to take the moral high ground. That's where my issue with the whole situation always came in, because I was wrong and I deserved to be punished and have repercussions for my actions, because for every action, there's an equal or opposite reaction. And I deserve to be reprimanded because I was wrong. But there's never a reason for you to tell someone to kill themselves.
Correct. Yeah,
absolutely.
And it's really hard because, I mean, you underlined it. I mean, I don't know how much hate mail or DMs or private messages you got in that time frame. I can only guess, but that has to do a number on your psyche, and just as much for yourself as the victim.
Yeah, and I every day I live with the fact that I probably helped ruin this girl's life, and hopefully she is able to come back from it. I have no contact with her, the family, or anybody. I have no idea how it all went. I have apologized to people that know her And I have tried to, hey, let them know that I am sorry for my actions, but I've been asked not to, contact them. So I don't. And I am every day, I am sorry for what I did. And that's why now I've been through the last 8 months. I've gone through therapy regularly. I'm now sober. I no longer drink. I no longer do drugs other than what are prescribed to me for my depression and my anxiety. I just recently got into CBD too, because the further I get from the wrestling industry, the better I am mentally, but the worse off I am physically. My body is really starting to hurt now from not having that adrenaline anymore. So and the CBD has helped a lot with my anxiety and, back and knee issues. But other than that, I drink. I no longer do any kind of recreational drugs, anything like that.
Yeah.
I go through therapy. I'm there once a week. And I just am trying to now spread a message of positivity.
And is that the subject of your website? I see, I want to call this out really quick, but it's thegrindcalls.com, and it's your positive spin on pop culture. Is that part of this process for you to sort of better yourself?
Yeah. So toward, aside from wrestling, I got into the entertainment industry and film reviewing, movie reviewing, and just talking film punditry. And it was something I really enjoyed. And, so when I left, I'm retired from wrestling. I've now decided I kind of want to still talk about stuff. And so, but there's a lot of negativity in that too, as people always like to complain about, the Star Wars wasn't made the way I want it to be made or something like that. And people get so negative about it. And I just love film. I love entertainment. I love television. And I just want to celebrate the things that I enjoy. So now I try to find the good, find what I love about, entertainment, movies and stuff, and talk about it that way. Even things that I don't necessarily like. If there's a movie that I don't necessarily like, I'm not going to bash on movies. I'm going to say, well, I don't think this really worked, but I see what they're trying to go for. And I don't want to talk trash about things. I want to celebrate what we enjoy.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the right attitude. Life is constant communication. And the minute that we close our minds or close our ears to another point of view that may not jive with our worldview is the moment that we lose. So I want to say that I appreciate you coming on to our show today and being able to tell your story exactly for the first time. So I just wanted to tell you that we thank you for that.
And hey, thank you so much for having me on. It was an honor to be a part of the show, despite the fact that I had to talk to Fierro.
Yeah,
but it is. And again, this is literally the first time I've done anything since it all went down. Because my podcast stopped cold turkey right in the middle of a 2-part episode. I had uploaded part 1, and then it hit, and I just never, and that was it. It was all just gone. So I'm not gonna lie, I'm very nervous about coming on here doing this. I hope I was okay for you guys. I hope you guys I was a good guest. Hope your audience enjoys it.
There was one thing I wanted to touch on about the grind calls. On the website, I noticed the grind sports as well. I just wanted to touch on something else as a positive feature to your present life. Looks like a podcast that you're putting together that is basically the same vein as the grind calls, where you put a positive spin on entertainment. Looks like you're going to do the same thing with sporting events as well.
Yes, the sports grind is going to air. I don't know when you guys will air this episode, the show.
Day before Super Bowl Sunday.
All right, cool. Well then, tomorrow morning, Super Bowl Sunday, is going to be our first. Is going to be a special airing of our first show on YouTube at youtube.com/thegrind-calls. And we are going to break down the Super Bowl. Allegedly, I still haven't got a hold of my co-host and locked down a time to record. But so my buddy is recently just graduated from college. If he did a 7-year stint.
Yeah, baby.
If you get my drift.
A regular Van Wilder.
Yeah, he was locked up in jail for 7 years for some stuff, and he's recently clean for drugs, and now he's recently clean too. So he's going through his own comeback as well. And now that he's out and in the public, he's really got into podcasts. He's like, I really love it. I want to do this. I was like, well, I used to do it. He's like, and he knows everything about sports. Like, as much as I know about movies, and I have the knowledge of how to, run shows and do a podcast and stuff. So I was like, all right, well, this is what we're going to do. And we're going to do our first trial run for the Super Bowl. And then hopefully by the end of April, around the NFL draft, the Sports Grind will be up and be a weekly show on youtube.com/the grind calls. We're going to try to look at sports positively, as much as positive as two lifelong friends arguing about sports can be. That always tends to make things a little more rowdy, but
sure.
I'm really excited about doing this with him.
I'll tell you what, you picked a good Super Bowl to kick it off on. So this will be a good one to talk about.
I don't want to discredit your movie knowledge, but I thought it was you that said the movie's Cats wasn't that bad.
Cats was awful.
See? Wait, what happened to positivity?
I mean, Cats was
positively awful.
No. Awful doesn't mean isn't a negative thing. Cats is so bad that you have to watch that thing. It is incredible. It is a trip, bro. Well, so now that I don't do drugs anymore, I just watch Cats, and it's like, oh wow, all right, I get that feeling again.
I also don't want to discredit your podcast, but from personal experience, I know that you cannot recognize the greatness that is Tim Duncan. And just on that alone means I don't think you should be anywhere near sports, because your opinion is garbage.
We will not be talking about crybabies who aren't any good at basketball.
Nobody tune into his show. Just subscribe to ours.
His comments. I don't mean to discredit your show. Or discredit your podcast. That's about the same as, by all due respect, you're a dick.
It's in the Geneva Convention. You can say it.
Yeah, right.
Oh my goodness.
Well,
oh my goodness.
Congratulations on the grind calls and the grind sports. That's awesome. I hope everything works out well for you two.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. And again, this was so much fun being on here, man. This is a fun show. I'm definitely have to start listening to it weekly.
Yeah. And we would appreciate that. And be sure to help spread the word if you like what you hear. Share it and share it alike. I think that's going to wrap us up today. What do you guys think? You think we're good?
That is a good
so.
show.
Yeah.
I may be biased, but this is a good dude. Just trying to turn his life around, and I guess go listen to him talk about sports and the damn Mavericks. Damn, God!
There's going to be a lot of.
Go listen to this guy talk about the Mavericks. They're garbage.
A longer version of our Sports Grind intro is up now on my YouTube. It's been condensed, but I showed it to one of my buddies. He's like, "That's really a Homer video." I was like, "Well, yeah. What else? I'm gonna talk about the things I enjoy, So we put
Mark Cuban, baby.
The things I enjoy, exactly.
Well, that's great. All right, I think we're gonna wrap things up here on this edition of CTS. As always, be sure to drop some comments and let us know what you think. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And we'll be back next week with a brand new show. I want to thank our guest, B to the C, for being here to share his story. Be sure to check out his website, thegrindcalls.com, for his positive spin on pop culture and sports. And we wish him the best of luck here at CTS. That should do it, folks, for Fierro and Mike. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time right here on CTS. So long, everybody.